everyone, and welcome to our third and final part of the webinar series on the Budsin Boat project. Today's webinar is an interview on 3 fabricators who worked on this project: Mike Charpentier, Vice President of Paul's Custom Canvas, Amy Poe, founder of Wycombe, and Jeff Viemeyer, owner of Alameda Canvas and Coverings. My name is Brooke Kahn, VP of Marketing at Keystone Brothers, and I'll be moderating today's session. Today's webinar is sponsored by Keystone Brothers. Founded in 1868 as a family business selling saddles on the streets of San Francisco, Keystone has now grown to be one of the largest national leading suppliers and innovators of fabrics, vinyls, leathers, and textiles to multiple markets, including automotive, awning, marine upholstery and fabrication, fitness industries, and furniture upholstery supplies. Keystone Outdoor is our division dedicated to providing not only tried and true products, but also innovative constructions and designs for the awning and shade, marine and outdoor seating markets. Keystone has more than 250 employees in 19 warehouse and branch locations throughout the US. For more information on us, visit our website at www.keystonebros.com. So we've prepared some questions today for the fabricators. However, you'll have the opportunity to submit your own questions by typing them into the control panel. You may send them at any time during the presentation, but we will conduct questions at the very end of today's interview. A recording of this session will also be emailed out to you tomorrow. So with this, I would like to introduce Mike, Amy, and Jeff. How are you guys today?
Excellent.
Good, good. Hello.
Well, welcome. Thank you for spending the time with me today. I look forward to these questions and getting to hear your feedback on how the project went. So without further ado, when you were first approached about the idea of this boat makeover, how do you recall your first reaction to it?
I was excited about it. It's always fun to do. I mean, that's basically what our job is, more or less, doing boat makeovers like this. So I was pretty excited about it.
I think for me, I was mostly excited about getting to work with other fabricators, which is something I've never had the opportunity to do before. So it was definitely yeah, that sounds like a neat idea.
That's what I thought too. I was looking forward to working with Amy and Mike, and there were challenges doing it spread out like we were, but I thought it would be also great for the Marine Fabricators Association to have a real hands-on project. Of course, as it turned out, it grew into something even bigger.
For sure. So you found out that you needed to travel to North Carolina. Did this kind of help reassure the project concept at all? Or were you already kind of 100% committed when you were first asked?
The travel to North Carolina was definitely a plus. I was having a hard time wrapping my head around how we would do it otherwise. So yeah, being able to meet on site, all 3 of us together at the same time, and do the patterning and see each other's techniques was a big plus.
Yeah, I agree. I was really looking forward to traveling to anywhere to go work, because I always go to the same place every day. So it's always fun to go somewhere else.
Yeah, change of
But
scenery.
yeah, going to North Carolina was really neat.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of this is science and part is art, as we know, and it's hard to see the art in your mind if you can't see the actual thing that you're working with. Think about that gets the creativity going and the confidence factor that you can start coming up with ideas. Plus, we were able to spend some time visiting the Glen Raven headquarters through our generous host there, and that was very, very useful, very interesting, just all on its own as well.
That's fabulous. And I know all of your shops were busy, so we thank you for your time. But what was one of the main reasons why you volunteered your time and resources for this project?
Honestly, to have the chance to work with different fabricators, because getting into it, we didn't know that we would be involved with the school. So that turned out to be just a big bonus. But in the beginning, it was just neat to be able to work with different fabricators to see how they did things differently or the same as how you did them. So I thought that part was very enticing. I was very much looking forward to that.
For me, I think it was a chance to maybe give back to the association that's given a lot to us, and a lot of the usefulness that I found has been hands-on things, impromptu things, things where fabricators thought out of the box and brought something extra to their seminars or to whatever we were doing. This was a chance for us to kind of give back in the same sort of way. Plus, it's a challenge. Can we do it? How's this going to work? It was sort of something a little unknown and exciting.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I can add to both of those. It was both of those things. The opportunity to give something back to the organization and to work with the other fabricators.
Awesome. So this was the first boat makeover that we've done for an educational session for the MFA conference. Would you recommend participating in future makeovers to other fabricators? So in other words, would you have participated in this project knowing what you know now?
Absolutely.
Definitely. It takes a certain mix to make it work. We had the mix. We had great sponsorship there. Glenn Raven was helpful with the materials so we could expand and experiment. We had some project sponsors that were really capable, and I think that's going to be a key ingredient. Also, a donor boat where the owner was willing to let whatever needed to happen to make it work. So you need all those key elements, but absolutely is a fantastic thing.
Love it. So initially, you asked for total design control, meaning you got to choose the project details, including colors and textures for the boat. Initially, we didn't have that from the Budsin owner, but then he agreed. Was that a deal breaker if you did not have complete control, or just the sense of creative release that showcased kind of your vision?
Oh, it definitely wasn't a deal breaker. I mean, I was going to go regardless of what the owner said about it, but you end up doing that at work more or less anyway. I mean, you have somewhat creative control of how things are going, but the customer already has something in mind of what they're looking for. So it's just your job to make his vision come true. So if he had a specific look to go after, then we went after that look. And if not, then being able to do what we wanted to is just a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. It wasn't a deal breaker. That's how our real customers are. We were joking with the owner about, orange and blue and all kind of crazy things just to scare him a little bit because he was really conservative in the beginning. And that's appropriate. His market is conservative and his boat designs are conservative. But it was a chance to kind of do at least a little subtle rearranging of maybe what it was expected to be, not just a copy of what went before, but a little bit different without being outside the realm of what might be normal for somebody who had a good design sense.
I think it was also difficult to know exactly what the owner did want because he wasn't actually on site with us when we went to do the patterning. So there were a few things where we just sort of said, well, this is what we're going to do. And it's hard to convey those things via a phone call. So we just went forward with them anyway. And I think everything turned out well.
I think it definitely did. So kind of shifting gears from talking about the boat project itself and now kind of going to discuss the CTEC and working with students. What challenges did presenting at CTEC High School bring with 50 plus students watching you pattern and asking you questions and being hands-on involved right next to you guys?
I actually didn't find it challenging at all. I thought it was exciting to have that many people watching. It was just, I mean, thankfully we did it right the first time and didn't have to say, oops, let's try that again. And I meant to do that and start over again and show them this is the right way to do it. I mean, so it was, I mean, other than just a little bit of pressure of getting it right the first time, I didn't have any issues with it at all.
That was great.
I think Mike's being, you go ahead, Amy.
The students they were really excited about it, and it was nice having them milling around and asking questions and jumping in and wanting to participate and not acting like bored high schoolers, which sometimes you can get. So it made it really exciting. Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think Mike's being a little modest because to pull out the Pro liner there, I mean, usually you do something like that somewhat quietly and at your own speed and get to think it through. And to suddenly have a door open and 30 or 40 kids come running in, surround everything, surround you and the boat and everything in the garage where it was kept there, the auto shop. That was a little surprising, but boy, he handled it really well. And we got into it because the kids, their teachers, instructors were very much on top of the game, and they had the students asking good questions. They were kind of coaching the students how to approach it while we did the work. So it was a lot of people, but it instantly segmented out into, they were respectful and they asked great questions and they were curious, and we kind of just responded. I guess all of us are parents, so we sort of like, they're like our adopted kids for a little bit. We just got into parent mode and having a great time with them, and their instructors were keeping it on the scholastic level, tying it to what they were learning in their classes. So it just came together.
I love that. And you guys kind of hit on one of my next questions, but did you find the students interested and sincere in wanting to learn and participate?
The ones that were asking questions, yes. There was definitely some that were not interested in it, and I can't blame them. I mean, it's not a real exciting, wasn't all that exciting to sit there and watch, but the ones that were asking questions were asking really good questions. They weren't just written down questions and then not paying attention to the answers. The kids that were asking questions were definitely into it.
There was one student who, according to his teacher or the principal or someone, had been very unengaged up until that day, and when he saw us working, actually got interested and started participating and jumped on the boat and was doing things and got engaged in the project, which they were thrilled with because he had been kind of tuned out for a while. So yeah, there were definitely some kids that took it and ran with it and had a great time and learned a lot.
That's an incredible success story too.
Yeah, I think too that the ability to show a couple of different methods. So we showed traditional patterning, which is quite quick and was very effective on the boat, but also a digitizer. The fact that it was there, we could show it going on. It would be, as you know, Mike took the points, and he could show on his laptop the rendering of it. They could kind of feel like, hey, this is something I can get into. This isn't, mom and pop's upholstery shop kind of thing. And I think that appealed to some of them as well. They could start putting it together. They saw it as more of a design or engineering exercise. In fact, I noticed that the school keeps calling us the engineers in their discussions here. That's how they saw it, as an engineering, and that's really a good way to look at it. It's not just some sort of a craft only. There is engineering that goes into it. That attracts students who are interested in that logic, that STEM kind of approach, I think.
Oh, for sure. So what about the professors? Were they supportive enough for you guys to warrant this scale of a project?
Absolutely. I think they were excited for it and definitely coached the kids in the right way. And I thought they themselves were interested in what we were doing as well. Just another avenue of production for the kids to learn in.
So
yeah, I think
go ahead.
the professors actually picked up quickly on the educational value and asked, could the students come in? And then one professor or teacher found out about it and from another one and said, could her class come in as well? So we had shifts of classes. And what I heard from them was that this was a golden opportunity to show the students how real world matched up to what they were learning. It wasn't all classroom, it was hands-on. This is how you transition to something that you can support yourself and your family out in the real world going forward. And they felt that was a really important connection.
I bet for sure. So you all decided to show the students both traditional patterning as well as electronic patterning. Talk about this with me and comment on the pros and cons of the traditional versus the electronic patterning.
I have found that trying to hire people right now to do a skilled trade, that the skill is changing. It's not that there aren't people that are not skilled workers out there, but the skill is changing and it's going more towards computers and digital and that sort of thing. So there's still a need for being able to have the vision and have the ability to do it the traditional way by hand, in case everything completely fails.
Mhm.
But the skill set is definitely changing. So to be able to show them in something that they understand and that they can do a job with something that they like doing, I definitely think that's amazing. And I've had more luck hiring guys to do CAD work and working the ProLiner than to teach somebody how to pattern traditionally.
So we understand that the C-Tech engineering students, being inspired by the project, developed their own canopy cover using 3D printed fasteners. Any comments on their efforts and participation in that realm?
I don't know if I don't think I saw the final product that they made, but I did hear about the fasteners. Jeff, did you see it?
At the conference there in Daytona Beach, they did have a box with the fasteners in. I was able to see the 3D printed version of what they come up with, and it was a really clever and useful little attachment. I don't remember the details. It would actually be useful to get a picture, a photo of that somewhere. We didn't get a chance to see how the top fit. They didn't really have a chance to do a fitting like we would. They didn't have the digitizer. They didn't have the standard pattern, and I got the actual top. So we did it 3 different ways. So they had to kind of go by their quick measurements, and I don't know that they were able to get a good fitting on the different pieces themselves. But the attachment pieces that they added to the project, the different things that they thought of, were actually pretty clever, I thought.
That's
I can
wonderful.
definitely see that being the future of what you're doing too. If you're working on something and you need a piece and you can't find it, then just make it.
Yeah, make what
Yep.
you need. That's for sure. So then some of the challenges in this project, but not limited to these, were all of them, but developing a travel cover that would be able to contain all boat parts, wooden canopy, etc., when disassembled, choosing colors for cushions and canopies that reflected modern, but still hanging on to the traditional roots that Budsin wanted, patterning in North Carolina, but building in your respective shops, talking to students about complex fabrication in student language. Walk me through some of those, and if there are any other challenges you want to add to this list that kind of came about as this project went on.
I think just that the biggest challenge that we had was just trying to get the canopy to fit all inside of the little cockpit area without damaging any of the boat. Having to understand that it's going to be traveling down the road at 75, 80 miles an hour, you can't have anything moving and vibrating around in there. So for me, that was the biggest challenge, was to see how we could get that in. And then once you took it out, to get it back in the same way again was just as challenging as getting it in the first time. That way there, when you made the cover, if you didn't have it in the right way and you're making custom covers, if anything underneath is different, the cover's not going to fit the way that it did before. So that, to me, was the biggest part of it. That was the biggest challenge. Once we got working on it, it wasn't that big of a deal as far as whether I was working in my shop or working in somebody else's shop. All of the sponsors were very good at having all of the supplies there that we needed. So it wasn't that big of an issue.
Awesome.
The part that I worked on was the curtains, and the challenge there was that the fabric that was chosen was a really lightweight, see-through, not traditional curtain material. So we ended up, instead of making like a flat panel enclosure type of curtain, we made a curtain that looks more like a residential home curtain. And then figuring out how to install it without putting a whole bunch of fasteners into the top was a challenge as well. So what we ended up doing was making a piece of plastic that attached to the top in only a couple of different locations, and then the curtain attached to that piece of plastic. That way I didn't have to put 20 or 30 snaps on each side of his canopy.
What about you,
Yeah, I
Jeff?
think initially when we were first putting this together, the first challenge was figure out what's a unified approach that we want to take to the project. And then once we got there, fortunately, each of our areas was pretty much separate from each other, so we didn't have to worry about everything exactly fitting to someone else's dimensions. But like Mike says, that the owner actually never had got all those pieces of that top and all into the cockpit successfully. He just let them kind of stick out. So for the first time, we all figured out a way that they would go in, and then he could do this nice tight cover that did a good job. So that was actually an improvement there. And then we agreed on our approach and our color scheme so that they would harmonize, and then went off on our own. The part that was a little difficult on our side was the top was all handmade out of beautiful wood, finished, and it was like any handmade thing, it was not completely symmetrical. And we had to make the first shot at the top. We like to do it tensioned and nice, no wrinkles, and we didn't have that opportunity until it went right back on the boat the final time. So we did some things that we thought would help, and they did work out. It was interesting because they had cutouts in the top. When you get on the boat, the top is so low it'll hit you in the neck. So they have little pushback openings you can step on, and then they slide back out. So that made it a little more complicated to get all that right, but it worked out fine. So I think once we had our little lanes figured out, we talked among ourselves about how to make it work, and then fine-tuned it on site with great teamwork. And in the middle of the night, it all came together.
Awesome. So we talked about challenges. Now let us look at the positives. What was your favorite thing about participating in the Budsin Boat Project?
Getting to go out on the boat.
Yeah.
My favorite part was working with the other fabricators and seeing how they approach things a little bit differently, because everybody has their own little nuances in their shops, and so just to see how some of what you do is the same as what other people do, but how they also approach the same problem looking at a different way. And it's helpful when same as at the conferences, you get different opinions and different views, and it's always a bonus to be able to take away another way to look at a different project. That way you're not just stuck in the same way, and if you can't figure it out, you have a couple of different avenues to look at it and come up with a solution that works. And going out on the boat was fun too.
Oh, and riding the boat. Jeff, do you have a favorite?
I think the time in North Carolina was probably for me the most enjoyable part. It was fresh, new. We got to kind of immerse. We weren't rushed. We had a few days, and we could go out to eat and talk about it, come back and look at it the next day and refine the ideas. And the sponsors were bringing things in, and it was really productive. And then, I don't know, I was just totally in the zone there. I wasn't distracted too much with work back at the shop because we were able to focus and spend a good amount of time. And then seeing how the students, that was just sort of unexpected. That just, do you mind if a couple students come in? And then pretty soon is, can we have a whole class? And then can we have all the classes? And watching them get enthusiastic about it kind of gave me a little bit of renewed hope that the next couple of generations are going to be able to make things work and continue what's been laid out in front of them versus sometimes what you see and hear, generally. So I was very impressed, really enjoyed the students. Good questions. Even the off the wall questions were really creative. You can see why they came up with that. I really thought that was great. And coming back and producing it, that was the cake that everybody got to enjoy. But for me, making it was probably the most fun part.
I love that. So at the end of patterning in North Carolina, y'all got to take the boat out, which was the favorite part. Are you guys ready to purchase your own Budsin and get out on the water?
It's going to have to be able to go a little bit faster. I like to water ski, and doesn't happen behind that boat.
Yeah, a little too slow.
A little bit. I mean, if you got like a 6 mile an hour headwind, we're not going anywhere.
It's a great little lake boat. Like, that would be the ideal location for it. It's not the kind of locations that we have here.
Yeah,
the
water's too severe.
Yep.
It would swamp in the first 5 minutes, unfortunately.
Oh, bummer. But you enjoyed it while you were there in North Carolina, that's for sure.
Yep.
Totally.
During your presentation of the project at the MFA convention in Daytona, what questions came up during your session that were notable that you could share with everyone listening in today?
The one thing that I remember that people asked us was how we chose the colors that we did and why we chose them. And the simple answer was because we liked them. We thought the color combination looked good together, and it was just that we liked them. That was the one that stuck with me.
Yeah, we were originally going to do, it was my thought, we might try 2 or 3 different palettes, just like here's combinations of things that might work, you know, really avant-garde and then medium and then really conservative. But the more feedback we got was the owner was really, even conservative to him was avant-garde. And with natural wood and the design of the boat and the period of the boat, you want to kind of honor that with something that's sophisticated and subdued and not just crazy and sort of disrespectful, if you want to call it that. The boats are expensive, they're works of art, they're furniture. It's like going to your grandma's house, and you know, you just sort of want to treat it nicely. So we didn't go too advanced, but we wanted to be different. So I think, and then there, for me on site, there were the questions about how to engage younger people in the industry was something that people really were interested in asking about. We got a lot of questions on that from the audience, along with how to turn down the air or turn up the air conditioning. It's too cold.
Have it cool off a little. Any other unexpected questions or topics from the convention? Nope. Well, any other thoughts on the whole project itself before we start opening up to questions for those listening in today?
I thought the sponsors were absolutely amazing. To be able to fly us all out there and coordinate the whole thing together, and their demands, I'm not even going to call them demands, they were requests that we use certain types of fabric, but they weren't limiting us to the colors that we were using. So, I mean, other than that, and it wasn't even that bad, I mean, that was fine. Okay, if you're going to fly me out here to do all this, I'll go to that and use your materials. That's fantastic. I thought they were gracious hosts. It was really fun to be able to see the Sunbrella headquarters. And then just for them to coordinate everything and have it come out the way that it did, I thought was pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, there was nothing they held back, even like brand new materials or prototype things, or they go back and figure out some way to get some of this material to us. It was like, yes, we'll figure it out. In fact, they actually, I think, got a sewing machine from somewhere and got it to the school so the school could even do their part of this, because the school didn't have an industrial sewing machine. So, I mean, they were in it completely for the good of the project. And boy, what a great reflection on the company culture of everybody involved.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time. Now's the opportunity, if you have questions listening in, to submit them over in the control panel. So this is from Derek. Would you recommend we keep working with education, perhaps a community college versus more of a high school level students?
Yeah, it seems like community college would be a good way to go, or if there's technical schools. It's all going to depend on the location, where the boat is, and who's sponsoring it.
I think the chance to get anybody involved is going to be fantastic. I don't think it necessarily matters what age it is. I mean, if it sparks an interest in somebody who's 15 and that's where they gear toward, that's great. And if it's somebody who's in their late 20s and they have no idea what they're doing and it sparks an interest, I think that's fantastic too. So I think anybody that you can get involved in it is a good idea.
Yeah, in our area, there's a need for craftspeople as well, and some of the local industries, the small shipyards that specialize in super yachts and all, have sponsored community college classes with some of their senior welders on super complicated welding techniques. They volunteer to teach the classes and then provide internships with them with a path to employment at a good paying job for a good company. So that kind of linkage, if you can work it out, is really something the junior colleges, community colleges like to see. And that attracts people who want to maybe have a future in this and not just take a college class on it.
That's great feedback, great thoughts, especially as we kind of are, all of us are in the same boat of looking for skilled labor and skilled talent, especially to help support you guys. We'll give it a few more minutes for any more questions. And any of the ones that come in and trickling after, we'll send out to you. And then we'll provide the responses after that.
Maybe we can ask a question of anybody listening. What did we not cover that you would like to have seen done in the project, or approached it a different way? Was it successful from your point of view? Could it have been more aggressive in terms of the things chosen? I'd like to know some feedback on that. Our other fabricators.
That's a great question.
Did we do okay?
Nothing's come into yet, but if once, I'm sure we will get some feedback, Jeff, and we will send that over.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Mike, Jeff, and Amy for joining me today. Thank you to our listeners. This whole project from start to finish wouldn't have been as incredible without the three of you guys. So any remaining questions in the feedback we'll send out as well. And then a link to the recording will also be emailed out to all attendees tomorrow. Finally, a brief 3-question survey will also appear on the exit webinar. We hope you'll take a few minutes to complete that for us. So thank you guys again. I really enjoyed moderating these 3 series webinars for you. It was just as much fun for me as I'm sure my interviewees had. So thank you to everyone, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
You too.